Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and for all our strong Australian contingent, good following morning. I'm just figuring out the technology here. It's only been 37 times. Actually, Facebook changed I have the new version of Facebook and it is very confusing. There we go. That should be okay. I am live, but I don't see the comments on Facebook. That's okay. Hello, everybody. I am coming to you from New York City. It is a cold, cold December day. Today's December 3rd. Happy birthday, Rabbi Avi. Today we're doing things a little bit differently. We have today's special guest is me. But fear not, I will be not interviewing myself. As they say, a lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a client, and a interviewee who interviews himself has a fool for an interviewer. So I will have my special interviewer today, Sebastian Rudol, filling in as he always does for me on every occasion, will be the co-host. And let's see the snarky comments coming in already. In honor of Giving Tuesday, Benji says, Sebastian, everybody on the AMA will be given a JCC Krakow t-shirt. That's true. Everybody who is broadcasting on the AMA will be given a JCC t-shirt. That means me and Sebastian, we will be promptly given a JCC t-shirt. Good morning, Sita. My dad is watching. Hello, Dad. Because of my recent loss of my mom, I have decided to be extra nice to my dad. We have, of course, my relationship with all my family members and parents, never too easy, but I'm going to double down and be especially nice to my dad. Dad, I am starting to grow out the payas and become more religious as we speak. No, just kidding, but it's good to see you this morning, Dad. I hope you're feeling well. Sorry that usually when I fly out of Kennedy, I stop and see my dad on the way since he lives in Forest Hills, which is on the way to the airport. But tomorrow night we are flying out of Newark. So I will unfortunately not see my dad, try to keep him safe as he's an older guy. So I won't see him, distancing a little bit. Good morning, Randy from Palo Alto. Sorry you can't stay long today. No, don't worry about it. No, good to see you. Always good to see everybody. So in New York for another week. Tomorrow, we have been in New York for another week. Tomorrow we fly back to Krakow. New York has been very strange. These little sukkahs everywhere of the outdoor dining. We have walked everywhere. So normally New York is a walking city, but we've really walked. I think we haven't taken any public transportation. And we have taken one taxi. You sit in the back with the windows open, and we've been in a friend's car a couple times. So it's a very different vibe in New York when you're not taking the subway and just walking around everywhere. And it's a strange time to be in New York. I'm glad I experienced it. I wish it were for different reasons, but it's been interesting to be in New York these couple weeks. Good morning, Montreal. Good morning, Marcel. Good morning, Marcel from Montreal. How are you, Marcel? I hope you're doing well, staying warm. You and Marilla, we miss you guys and are looking forward. With all this talk of a vaccine, it looks like we have more of a chance of actually seeing each other, all of us, seeing each other soon. So that's optimistic. There's talk already in the UK approved the vaccine, I guess the Pfizer vaccine, I think. And we'll see when the US gets it. So it'll be interesting as we'll start this whole mad scramble in the world for a vaccine. We'll all have to wait in line, and first responders and people who are dealing, medical professionals and older people who are more at risk will get the vaccine first. And then we'll see how that works out. I'm sure that'll be lots of scandals and unfair things of who gets the vaccine or not. I guess I'll have to think about it as a citizen of 3 countries. Which country will hook me up with the vaccine first? Never know. Be interesting. I'm probably guessing Israel. Israel's usually good at that stuff. dealing with. Plus, it's a smaller country, so in some ways easier. Where we are in Poland with Corona, Poland surpassed 1 million Corona country, the 13th country in the world to do so. And that's with over very, very little testing. So yeah, Poland, good for you. No, just shouldn't be too sarcastic about Corona. Poland is an interesting case. I read a statistic the other day, and Sebastian, who's going to join and interrogate me, will be able to correct this, I'm sure, as he's more up on things like that. Poland had the highest percentage of positive tests in the world, and the lowest among sort of countries that are reporting the lowest testing rate, which of course go hand in hand, considering that nobody is testing, that people only with very, very good reason to test are testing. And Poland had a testing rate over 50%, which was really, really crazy. But things starting to get better since Poland has been more closed lately. The number of cases are dropping. Poland, between 6 and 15,000 cases each day with this week. Last week we hit almost 30,000, more empty beds in hospitals, more available respirators. So things are going well, although I'm always a little dubious of everything going on while there's such little testing. So it's really hard to know. Here in Poland, difficult. The tests are, you can pay for tests. There are free tests available, but you have to get in line very early in the morning, and it's not so easy to do. Kasha and I actually did it. We got in line, had our COVID tests, were negative, which is all good. It took a few days for it to come back, but waited about 2 hours and did it for free, which is saving hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which was good. So there's that. But Poland's still a little challenged in the testing area. What else? Things are good at the JCC. Things continue. Things are well. Continue to try to take care of our seniors, do everything remotely except for our preschool, which is open. Getting ready for Hanukkah, doing a lot of online stuff. We'll see. I'll be back over this weekend, so be able to reconnect and get more of a feel for what's going on at the JCC. To be honest, JCC runs perfectly well. Sebastian and Aggie and the team run things very, very well when I'm not there. So they're not missing much with me being away. Black Friday here in New York was interesting. It was very, very different. Everybody was just shopping online, so you didn't get the usual insanity that you usually feel. Happened to be here for Black Friday, but not wildly exciting. Feels like all the shopping is just migrated to Amazon, which good for Amazon stockholder, probably bad for all the mom and pop shops and everything else, and just the world as Amazon controls more and more of e-commerce, which is more and more of the economy. So that's really sort of been an interesting development. But yeah, you didn't get the very the usual Black Friday vibe in New York that you usually did. What's going on with the switcheroo? Yeah, we thought we would switch it up this week. We always joke about that Sebastian will interview me. So we thought this week we would go ahead and do it. And I should let everyone know, I am not aware of the questions. I did not go over this with Sebastian at all. Sebastian is free to ask me anything he likes. Of course, Sebastian, as I am Sebastian's employer, so free to ask me anything he likes within the boundaries of not incurring my wrath and vengeance, and locking Sebastian in a closet or something at work and torturing him with that, having him work outside in the cold. So yeah, of course, just kidding. Sebastian will ask me whatever he asks me, and we'll see. It will be interesting to be the interviewee. Good morning from Denver, from Sue Ellen Cadis. Good morning, Sue Ellen, recent grandmother. Sue Ellen Cadis, congratulations, huge mazel tov. Sue Ellen's daughter Samantha gave birth a few weeks ago. So on November 3rd, actually a very auspicious day this year, is the day that Donald Trump was defeated, according to 340 million, or most Americans, not all Americans, certainly not Donald Trump. But I thought that was a very cool birthday, November 3rd. Of course, had the election turned out differently, it would have been not a great birthday, but it's historically a pretty good birthday, like being born on November 11th. day that World War I ended or something like that. I think it's historically important. Saul says Amazon is hiring a lot of people, which is good, but other small businesses are hurting. Yeah, Amazon's hiring a lot of people. I don't know how great those jobs are. There's, this idea that we always talk about the unemployment rate and strictly by the numbers, this many people have work, don't have work, but it really is dependent on the type of work that people have. Many people have work and the wages are so low and they're living in expensive places that they still need government subsidies, which if you think about is a little bit crazy, that this idea of having a full-time job and still not being able to reasonably support yourself, or if a couple people are working to support your family. So, it's probably need to look, and I'm sure economists are doing that, looking at better statistics, not only the pure unemployment statistics, but understanding that how many people have a livable wage jobs, which there's more and more talk about, but we need to catch up and probably do a better job about that. So yes, Amazon hired hundreds of thousands of people in the last 6 months, which is good. But I think that also having one company dominate things the way that they do is not good overall. We have a society where we believe competition is good. We saw in Soviet dominated countries over the last 70 years that no competition was not a good thing. Industry thrives with competition. We have used to have strong antitrust laws in the United States that have been weakened, and hopefully that'll get back. Will be corrected or pushed back in the other direction. So yeah, Amazon, it's complicated with this sort of behemoth that's putting everyone else out of business. And then Amazon has started to do things which I find a little cheeky. They start to make their own products and push those ahead of others. So they see, for example, Amazon sees that you have pens that you're selling for $1 each. Amazon decides to sell the same pen under their own name and undercuts you because they can, puts you out of business. Then once you're out of business, they can do whatever they want with the price. So Amazon, by controlling the means of distribution and the whole marketplace, has a huge amount of power over all of us and over other companies, which is not necessarily a good thing. Saul says no one who works 40 hours a week should be living in poverty. Absolutely, Saul. Amen to that. Amen to that. Absolutely. That's really the issue at this point, that there are jobs, and there used to be good jobs, and things like minimum wage were not there for people really to work long term on minimum wage. They were meant, I think more for temporary jobs, high school kids and things like that. So pushing the minimum wage up is important, and I think necessary as more people actually work for minimum wage. So thank you, Saul. Always good to engage you in this type of discussion. I am going to bring on, not my guest, I'm going to bring on my interviewer, who is our good friend and my right-hand man, my consigliere, but not only consigliere, the highest praise that there can be. And all you Godfather fans will understand what I mean. Sebastian being a recent convert to the world of Godfather. He's a wartime consigliere, which is the most important type, the highest level of consigliere that you can trust him when it gets down to, goes to the mattresses, as they say. So thank you for agreeing to be my interviewer, Sebastian.
So welcome to the show, Jonathan. Good to have you here. You probably heard about us before.
I have.
Just gonna run some basic details. We're just gonna talk about a few random things, talk about your life, talk about the JCC a little bit, and hopefully bring some entertainment to the guests. Welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good following morning to those who are watching us from Australia. So, Jonathan, let's cut to the chase, right? New York, your present experience or New York growing up, which one do you prefer?
Well, first of all, Sebastian, let me just also say that if you ask anything too personal or too embarrassing, I will have to plead the fifth. As a United States citizen right now on United States soil, I am protected by the Fifth Amendment, which allows me not to incriminate myself. So I will do that. New York growing up or New York now, which do I prefer? Wow, good question, Sebastian. So maybe let me go into that a little bit. And say how New York has changed. Growing up in New York, I was born in 1970. I grew up in Queens in Forest Hills. I went to school in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, starting at age 11, which meant I very often took the subway and public transportation, running in high school, New York City. And so New York City for me, growing up was New York City in the late 70s and 80s. I remember visiting my grandmother in her apartment on the Lower East Side, and stepping over needles. My parents telling me to be very, very careful as we, stepped over needles and terrible, really just, it was a dodgy neighborhood. That apartment that she was paying $150 a month for probably now is $10,000 at least a month for this massive apartment on Fifth Street. So New York in some ways has cleaned up, has become a lot less dangerous, a lot less edgy. We used to walk through Central Park and you have to run across Central Park because we were worried about getting mugged, although we really had nothing to steal in high school. As high school kids, it was dangerous. My high school was on 94th Street, sort of the edge of really East Harlem at that point, and it was really a very different vibe in New York. You had neighborhoods, good neighborhoods, and and bad neighborhoods which were dangerous. You didn't go into. So New York is really, as money has poured into New York, and things have gentrified at an incredible pace. The city has changed very much, and safer New York is better. But New York has lost a lot of its edge. I think New York was more interesting when I was a kid. I think New York is safer now. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm nostalgic for that New York. There's a great thing on Facebook which is called like old dirty 70s New York, and they post photos of these like cars, taxi cabs on fire and stuff. So I miss the old New York. New New York has really great restaurants. It's safe and accessible, but it's missing something. It's like the sort of, I call it the mallification of New York or of the United States. You can be in different cities around the world, or different cities certainly in the US, and you don't know where you are. Whereas New York City used to have certain feels. There are neighborhoods. The Upper East Side, I think, hasn't changed that much where I'm right now. It always had that sort of vibe, but the Upper West Side used to have its own distinct vibe that I feel is lost very much. You have hundreds of Duane Reeds and CVS's. You can you can almost hold your breath and go from Duane Reed to Duane Reed to Duane Reed. And New York City, that used to have all these quirky nutty little shops, now has just lots of Duane Reeds and banks all over. So there is a negative to it, but New York is still, to me, the center of the world and the greatest city in the world. And there's an energy here that you don't feel anywhere. And I still love it, but it's a very different place than I grew up with. And Sebastian, I hope I'm not, making me look bad by having that snazzy background and all that. I hope that people don't expect me to do that next week.
Hey, listen, I'm the guest host.
You are the guest host.
That's what you get.
You are the guest host, and I will crack a non-alcoholic beverage. In Poland, I only drink water and sparkling water. But here in New York, there's a whole variety of interesting things. So I'm drinking my Diet Ginger Ale.
Diet Ginger Ale. But I also have a beverage in this astonishing cup we made. Anybody who's interested in purchase, maybe we're gonna set up a shop. I don't know.
What is that cup, Sebastian? Let me see that mug. Oh my God, we're branding.
Sebastian. We are branding. The shop is expanding.
Sebastian, I walk around generally proud of you, but some moments I have that I'm bursting with pride, Sebastian. That's one of them. We're gone worldwide, Sebastian. A Jew in New York.
Selling out.
A Jew in Krakow in New York. Thank you, Sebastian, for that.
So I understand the reason why people are running in New York through Central Park right now is different than why people were running when you were growing up.
Yes.
But tell me, so coming to New York right now, what would you say is the quintessential New York experience that anybody who should have? I've been to New York. You've recommended me a bunch of stuff. It was always great. But let's hope that people will be able to travel next year. What would you say a quintessential New York experience is?
These days, I would say a walk through different neighborhoods. I'll tell you, we did a good one the other day. That's a quintessential New York thing to do. You walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, and you don't turn around to look at the skyline until you're 3/4 of the way across, almost in Brooklyn, and then you turn around and you have the lower Manhattan skyline there. That's an amazing New York thing to do. Walk through Central Park. I wouldn't say take the horse and buggies because I don't think the horses are treated very well.
Yeah.
So I've actually never taken one. The same as in Krakow. But a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, a walk through Central Park, walk even down Fifth Avenue, although the retail is hurting a little, but that's, you see the windows. The Saks window is absolutely spectacular. The tree was lit last night at Rockefeller Center. That's something to see. So these classic, sort of trademark New York things are wonderful things to do. Take the ferry to the Statue of Liberty is beautiful. Go get a black and white cookie at William Greenberg. our friend who used previous guest on the AMA, Carol Becker, makes the best black and white cookies in New York at her bakery, William Greenberg, on 82nd and Madison. That's a New York experience. Grab a William Greenberg black and white, turn on Madison Avenue, go down Fifth Avenue, see the museums, walk past the Guggenheim, go into Central Park, do a lap around the reservoir. I mean, there's so much to do. New York is just a wonderful place in any season.
Yeah. I've been there. I think I've been there all season, and there's always something to do. So definitely, yeah. Seems like you just described the perfect Krakow experience, just magnified 100 times.
Well, wait, I have to jump in here. Agnieszka Gish said quintessential New York City experience is cutting in line. I'm going to have to argue with that. You don't cut in line in New York. As a New Yorker who's good at skillfully making your way to the front of the line and just getting in there, when you're in other cities around the world and people are a little bit slower, then you're allowed to cut in line and do what you want. But I don't know, Gish, I might have to take, it's not as if you have lines. I waited in line a few times since I've been in New York to get into places these days with all the distancing, and people don't really cut in line. I think there's an honor system when people are used to waiting for things, and New Yorkers don't cut in line in the way that you just like walk right in, because other New Yorkers won't let you get away with that.
Controversial opinions, Gish? Is that your experience? I don't know. We'll have to talk later. Anyway. Helen writes pastrami at Katz's. So that's not I think something you did, Jonathan, recently, but that's certainly something I'm doing every time I visit, and certainly something I can recommend.
Right. Of course, for those who don't know, Katz's, the famous deli for many, many years in New York, but made famous internationally by Meg Ryan in Harry Met Sally. That's where she had the famous scene of the "I'll have what she's having" scene.
So speaking of food places, we know you're all about pizza. Kasia's all about ice cream. So what are your top pizza place and top ice cream place in New York?
Okay, top pizza and top ice cream. Top ice cream is easier. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start with top ice cream. To me, at this point in New York, clearly, and we've done our research this trip, there are two ice cream places that stand out in New York at this point, and I'm fully confident in this answer. For regular ice cream, in other words, non-soft serve, mm-hmm. I'm going to say Anita. Tel Aviv's own Anita's ice cream has opened on the Upper East Side on 82nd and 2nd. To me, the best scoop of ice cream in New York City right now is Anita's. Unbelievable.
A newcomer.
What?
Controversial.
Yes, a newcomer to New York and Tel Aviv for years. Wildly popular, line all the time. All these other restaurants are empty. Anita's full every night. We've been there a few times. And the other soft serve, I have to say, New York classic, Big Gay ice cream delivers. We've had it also a few times. So to me, the soft serve is Big Gay. They have certain, my favorite one there is called American Globs. It's a vanilla soft serve. And then they coat it in this, they have this pretzel mix that they roll it in pretzels. Then they put it in this like chocolate dip and put sea salt on it. It's out of control. Those two are the best. In terms of pizza's complicated a little bit just because I think the greatest pizza place that I've had outside of Italy, because Italy is its own category, I would also say with ice cream, to be brutally honest here, is DeFara's Pizza on Avenue J and 15th Street in Midwood, Brooklyn. There was one guy, Dominic DeMarco, who was making the pizza there for 50 years. He's not making every pie himself. They've opened a few other locations. I haven't had it in a few years just because you had to wait in line for hours and hours. It was like this cult thing. But so that's not. These days, I really like the pizza at Mama's 2 on 105th and Broadway, which is almost like it's a deep dish, like not a deep dish exactly, more of a Detroit style. I'm a big fan of Vezzo. But Vezzo burnt down, but there are a couple of like 30th and Lex, something like that. So there's just so much good pizza in New York. It really depends on what kind of pizza you're looking for, do you want to sit down? Do you want to grab a slice? There's great slice places. There's an abundance of pizza in New York City that's really good.
Well, Henry Assolin's coming in with recommending Joe's Pizza, which I guess has a cold status.
Henry's from New Jersey. So of course Henry fancies himself a New Yorker. Hi, Henry. Joe's Pizza is good. Get a slice at Joe's. There's nothing wrong with it. But you know, there's also, they opened recently Coronet. Coronet has these huge slices that are very good. Joe's Pizza is good. Nothing against it. I don't know if it's the best pizza in New York. There's also pizza like some of these slice places, people like Prince Street Pizza. They have their pepperoni, square pepperoni slice with the little kind of pepperoni cups that became popular on Instagram. So, okay, fair enough, Henry. But
Okay.
Gish says, I cut in line at Grimaldi's Pizza. Oh, very good, Gish. You get a cutting in line as a tourist. We'll kill you for doing that. At Grimaldi's. So Grimaldi's interesting pizza. There's a Krakow connection. Grimaldi's a famous pizza place under the Brooklyn Bridge, where a guy from Poland worked there for 10 years, and then he came back to Poland and opened a pizza place in Krakow that a bunch of us really like called Pizza Garden, sort of done in the style of Grimaldi's. But Grimaldi's had a falling out, the family, they split, and the guy who was running Grimaldi's opened a place called Giuliana's, like 50 feet away from Grimaldi. So there's that sort of competition in a great New York style, but right under the Brooklyn Bridge. What's also nice is they opened Ample Hills, very good ice cream, a few feet away under the Brooklyn Bridge from Grimaldi's and Giuliana. So you can get some good pizza and good ice cream.
I'm a big Ample Hills fan, so definitely.
Ample Hills is good, and I have had it this trip, but I have to tell you that Anita Ample Hills just can't compete with Anita's.
Okay. Well, next time I'm there, I need to try Anita's or Israel, whichever I come first. So, speaking of, you've been in New York for a few weeks. You've spent, the last 19 years in Krakow before you've lived in Israel. So, which one is it for you? Poland, or rather Krakow, New York, or Israel?
Sebastian, my young friend.
Yes.
We live in a world of complicated, complex identity. Why non-binary world? I choose to maintain all three of my identities. I feel not necessarily as connected to America as I do to New York. I feel very connected to Krakow as opposed to Poland. I mean, I live in Poland, which is fine, but I really feel the Krakow connection. And I love Israel. So I spend a lot more time in Krakow in New York or Krakow in the United States than I do in Israel these days. But I love Israel, and every time I land in Israel, I feel like I'm back home, especially when I'm back on the kibbutz. So I don't know, if I have three passports, why do I have to choose? I feel connected to all of these places. But when I'm home in New York, it's been nice this trip being back, although, not the best reason necessarily, but I do feel very much like a New Yorker when I'm here and walking around and hurrying and have no time for anything and people in a rush. I like the energy. It's a very different energy in Krakow. I just sort of feel like, I don't know. I thrive, I think, in a more high energy, high pressure situation, and I like that in New York. Yeah. Henry says, if you're a tourist, Joe's will not disappoint. Fair enough, Henry. Fair enough. Joe's is okay. Joe's is good.
I'm even saying that you can cut any line if you just say Jonathan Ornstein. So I guess that gives you a pass.
I will have to attach an advisory comment that don't try this at home.
I've heard there's a few Jonathan Ornstein, so maybe everybody knows a different one.
Well, let me tell. I'll tell quickly that story. So I spell my name Ornstein, and my email is jonathanornstein@gmail.com. But people often make the mistake, I guess, because of the way it's pronounced, that they think my name is Orenstein, Orenstein. So sometimes my mail goes to jonathan.orenstein@gmail. So who is Jonathan Orenstein? Of course, as the world is a funny place, Jonathan Ornstein, spelled with an E, lives in Forest Hills where I grew up, and his son is best friends with my brother's daughter. So like in their little, in primary school. So my brother knows the other Jonathan Ornstein, who is constantly forwarding the mistaken mail that he always gets sent, these random things about Poland and, Holocaust related questions and all of this. So he sends it. So it's funny that there is another Jonathan Ornstein in the world. And of course I have this connection, and my brother is friends with him and he gets my mail.
So if you guys never got a reply from Jonathan, that's probably you emailed the wrong one. Remember that. There's not an extra E. So something I actually started doing a few years ago with my friends, something that might be a little bit unorthodox, is, it's the end of the year, and I know it's been a pretty specific year and we got a big year coming up, but what about your predictions for 2021? What if I ask you to make 3 predictions, not like easy general ones that there's going to be election in Israel, because of course there's going to be election, but your 3 predictions for 2021, and we'll come back to them next year and review them.
Oh my God. In any category, just 3 predictions?
3 predictions. What do you think the world is going to happen in the world that's going to have like, you know, an impact in 2021?
Our alien overlords will acknowledge their existence.
Okay.
1. Someone with the last name Trump will go to jail.
Okay, that's a very good one. Hope somebody's nodding.
So that would be 2. And the third prediction.
You can have a think, and we can jump to a bunch of other questions I've collected from your friends and employees.
Oh God. Okay, let's come back to that at the end.
Let's come back to that at the end. So, as I mentioned, I've asked around. You know, everybody knows Jonathan Arnstein, but do they? So, I've collected a bunch of questions and have some interesting ones, and hopefully you'll enjoy answering them. So, a question that a lot of people wanted me to ask you is, what do you imagine yourself doing if you weren't working at the JCC?
Wait, before I answer that question, I hope with you crowdsourcing all these answers, I hope that you're not instilling too much democracy in the JCC as I'm going. You're there as the, acting in my place, in charge of things. You got to maintain the strict autocratic system that I've set up there, Sebastian.
Absolutely. Well, I'm single-handedly deciding which questions get asked.
Okay. What would I be doing if I weren't doing what I'm doing? So it's an interesting question because I can interpret it in different ways. In other words, how do I see myself if I had been on a different path, or I was living on the kibbutz? What if I didn't leave the kibbutz? That I would be maybe on the kibbutz. I see myself running a business. I think that I've come to understand that I like a lot of the business aspects of what we do at the JCC. I think that one of the things that most interests me is marketing and sales, but not in the sales of selling a product, but just sort of like larger ideas or something. So I would say that in some sense I would be probably in business. I know that's a very broad category, but yeah, that's what I would like to be doing. I think it would be interesting. That's what I feel that I have certain. I like that, and I feel like I'd be good at that. Or Jeffrey Rudol says I'd be a beach bum. Well, yes, I would. Obviously, I would be a beach bum, but I would have to fund my lifestyle being a beach bum by having to have some type of successful business. Or I don't know, perhaps talk show host. I do like speaking in front of people and interviewing people. Of course, I'm not as professional as you with the backdrop and the little graphic and the glasses and the blazer. But all right,
the blazer. Listen. I watch American TV and I copy what I see. Speaking of other jobs, and I think that's something that will interest you. Somebody asks, and all those questions are anonymous, at least for now. I can tell you later.
They're all fired.
Film, would you be the director, the producer, or the editor?
Say it again.
If you were to make a film,
yeah,
right, would you be the director, the producer, or the editor of it?
Director.
The director. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a control freak. I like being in charge. I've always, I'm a bossy person. I would like to be honest, I would like to be all of those things, but I realized that I would have to delegate. So I would like to be the director. And I have to say, I find that also very interesting, spending some time with Mark Bennett, who's directing the film about the JCC and ideas and problem solving and all of that. I like problem solving. I know that that's very general and saying, oh, what would you be doing if you weren't JCC? But I think that you and I like to sit around and look at problems and do this and that, from an intellectual exercise. So I would think whatever I'd be doing, whether it's directing or, anything, I like the problem solving aspect of things.
Well, Ryan Kaplan coming in with saying you would be doing all 3 things at once. That's quite brave of you, Ryan.
Yeah.
So another question, somebody quite close to you had, and that's an interesting one as well. Who would you want to narrate your life?
Who would I want to narrate my life?
Yeah.
If I was making a film about my life, who's the narrator?
Who's the narrator?
100% easy answer for me. Jeffrey Rudol.
I mean, come on, that was,
Who has a better voice than Jeffrey Rolat? Come on, who wanted to do it? Ornstein went in 1978. Of course, Jeffrey Rolat, hands down.
Well, I think we all want Jeffrey to narrate our lives, right?
Yes.
Okay, coming back a little bit more to the work aspect and working at the JCC. So it's been 13 years, which sounds crazy. But what was your first month running the JCC? How do you remember it? A little bit different than these days.
To be honest, the JCC, I was surprisingly unprepared to run the JCC. Not to say anything bad about the powers that be in charge of things, but they really just kind of, everything was about getting the JCC open for Prince Charles. And after he left, there was really just nothing. And I was walking around with like a big set of keys, opening doors and stuff. No, it was a lot of mundane tasks, like going to the phone company and turning the phones on and getting the building ready to be open. We opened it before it was really ready. So those early days were just about like, it was almost like, here are the keys to some building, go do something with it. And we tried to just get it busy. And anybody with any idea was like, oh, sure, go do that. Oh, I know belly dance. Oh, great, go on the second floor and be a belly dance instructor. And just all kinds of somewhat random things that we were doing to get the building busy. I had it very much in my head from the beginning that people didn't believe that we needed to exist. So I wanted from the very early day have the building have an energy and be open and kind of fun. I just feel, as somebody with a short attention span, I say it very often that I think the worst thing is for things to be boring. So I didn't want the JCC to be boring. But a lot of the first month was honestly just me sitting on the floor without much going on, like probably no Wi-Fi or anything yet either. So.
Well, you did something right because now we have chairs to sit on. We don't have to sit on
chairs. We have chairs and Wi-Fi, employees. Who knew?
The phone still works, I guess. Okay, good. Well, talking about, so that's you setting up and running the JCC in the beginning, and you've accumulated quite a team of people that work with you, that believe in you. What are the top qualities you appreciate in people that we work with, and the top qualities you don't appreciate?
I hope all the employees are listening. I think first and foremost, integrity. Mm-hmm. You have to generally be a person of honor, not someone who's lying all the time or cheating and being sneaky or something. I appreciate that. Passion. Yeah, I want people to care about things. I can put up with a lot of mistakes and things. Maybe passion, even number one. I can put up with a lot of mistakes or things if people do it in the name of really caring about things. I think that has a certain energy, taking responsibility. People taking responsibility for their actions and caring about what they do are very big on my list. I can put up with other mistakes as long as there are certain things which are there. But wait, Sebastian, I have my third prediction.
Give it to us.
Sebastian Rudol gets married in 2021.
Oh, putting me in the spotlight. That's a low punch. That's a low punch. Okay, hopefully
that was a Jeffrey Rolat move.
That's a Jeffrey Rolat move. Glad Barry was at work.
Exactly.
Ooh, okay. Somebody turn on the heating up here. I don't know. Okay, so. And that's something I also think about when you spoke about, and I think, when you spoke about those qualities, I think it's very good when you talk about the integrity and the passion. That's I think clear. Anybody who's working here, I think, gets the idea that's how people working here are, and have been from the very beginning, which I think is something I really appreciate. And what you mentioned when talking about, the very beginning of the JCC is that people didn't think we had, there was a need for a JCC to be in Krakow, right? Which was a big challenge. And do you think that's still the biggest challenge that we face, or do you think there's something else that we, took over as kind of like the big thing that we need to constantly deal with?
No, I don't think that's a challenge anymore. I don't think anybody locally or internationally questions the need for JCC in Krakow. I would say the opposite. I think that we've become a model for other institutions and for other JCCs that are being built, especially ones that have a complicated mix of serving the local community while being in some ways an outpost for the Jewish world, an embassy for people to sort of stop into and connect to. So no, I don't think that that's our biggest challenge these days. I mean, I think our challenge, as I see it, is to be able to continue reaching out and growing the community. I think that our community, there are still people out there with Jewish roots who, for many different reasons, haven't connected and don't see themselves as Jewish or aren't involved in the Jewish life. And if we don't reach out to them, then those people will sort of vanish into the woodwork or not come out of the woodwork, and they'll be lost to the Jewish people. And I feel that our two main missions, or let's say three. One is taking care of our Holocaust survivors, which we're trying to do during COVID, and nothing is more important than that. The other, reaching out to these Jews who are still finding out they're Jewish or who don't even know they're Jewish. And the other is helping the Jewish world see Poland not only in the context of a place of tragedy and loss, but as a place of Jewish life. And those three are still absolutely our priorities, and are much more so than having to. I don't think anybody feels at this point in 2020, 12 and a half, 13 years into the JCC project, that we need to justify our existence. I think we've done that with an exclamation point, a neon, large neon exclamation point.
Speaking of which, we do need to get that neon on the building.
Sebastian, do I get one of those mugs?
Well, I think, I mean, like, we get t-shirts. You just said that we get t-shirts. I think we all get mugs.
I don't feel like I have to start drinking hot drinks. I don't really drink anything hot to have the mug, but I might switch.
You might switch. Your regular cup might not be good for that little design that we got going on here. Okay, and then coming back to you, because you kind of mentioned what you think about people we work with and how you think about the challenge. What do you think is an unpopular opinion you hold? Be mindful of the time we have.
Oh my God, an unpopular opinion that I hold.
Pizza or ice cream opinions don't matter.
Wow, Sebastian, that's such a good question. Oh my God. I don't understand how people like the TV show Friends.
Oh.
I just felt it was so banal and obvious. Hey, Joey, like I never thought anything clever. And people were like, oh, Friends, I love Friends. I never understood it. I could never get how people liked the TV show Friends.
Well, you're talking about it in a very particular time, because as of yesterday, Netflix Poland officially lost its license. So Friends are no longer widely available, and people are going bonkers about it here.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was like a regular show, like anything else. I just don't understand. I never understood what was so special about it.
I think certainly I can speak from a Polish perspective. It's for my generation, so people who grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, when the show was running. It was kind of like the first peak in how America looks like these days, right? It also happened like that they brought it just around the time it was produced. So like other US shows we got like 10 or 15 years after they finished running in the US. But Friends was kind of like playing as it was playing in the US. And I think that people got very excited because it showed like, like how people, our age or slightly older are living their American dream. So definitely kind of like, I think shaped our, my generation's expectations of what New York was, and kind of like created this mythos. So I think that's why it was such a particular hit here in Poland.
I get it in Poland. Poland is okay. I said, oh, it's a different society. Everybody looks to America. That's a window. I totally, 100%, I get it in Poland. I just don't get it in America. People like go crazy, lose their shit over Friends, which was, I understand. I love Seinfeld. There's something clever there and different things we can discuss. Everybody has their own different tastes, but the hysteria around Friends, I've never been able to understand.
Well, that's certainly an unpopular.
And Levain cookies. As a New York thing, these wildly popular cookies, Levain, that I just don't understand. I just don't think they're remotely good cookies. Sorry, Sue Ellen, who's watching.
Well, that's okay. That's why it's called an unpopular opinion. Speaking of food, somebody really wanted to know, actually a few people, why did you stop eating meat? You've been a vegetarian for what, 30 years now?
I've been a vegetarian since the beginning of 1994. So 27, almost 27 years. I stopped eating meat because I was on a kibbutz, a different kibbutz, not Yod Fatah, that I lived on. And one day they had chickens on this kibbutz, and I worked with the chickens. It was like a nighttime thing. I had a very unpleasant experience with the chickens, and it just got me thinking, and I decided that I didn't want to eat meat anymore. And I threw away the clothes I'd been wearing. They were all sort of ammonia kind of smell from working with the chickens, and it was not very pleasant. And I went back, I took off the clothes, those like work clothes that I had on the kibbutz, I threw them away, and I never ate meat again. I haven't eaten meat once since then.
Fascinating, fascinating. Personal story here. I was helping with Shita once, working at the JCC with the chickens, and haven't stopped eating meat after. I've been limiting meat for the past year, but after the Shita, I became what I call an aware meat eater, right? So or a more aware meat eater, yeah. I would say. So
these days, these vegetarian, like these Impossible burgers and Beyond burgers have become very popular. And the whole idea is that they're simulating, the taste that's just like meat. But that's like, I like veggie burgers. Like, I don't want them to taste like meat. And these days, when you go to places, very often they only have this type of vegetarian burger, which is.
And also like this thing that, especially in Poland, calling like something on a vegan menu, like chicken in parentheses, right? Or like
I don't like any of that, any fake sort of thing. And there's a restaurant Podnorami in Krakow which has everything tastes like chicken and this and that. And to me, I don't want any of that. Like if I wanted to eat something that tastes like chicken, I'd eat the chicken. So I don't want anything that's meat related, veggie, hot dogs or anything. None of that.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, well. You made your third prediction. You definitely answered a good question with the unpopular opinion you held. I think slowly we're coming out to an end, and we have only 2 questions left to ask. First one is: are you Team Latka or Team Hamantaschen?
No, so these I think I'm on record already with these. I am firmly on Team Latka. I am much more of a salty person than a sweet person, and even though with the sweets I don't like Hamantaschen. I just don't like them. I don't like the prune filling. I don't like this, the kind of crumbly cookie aspect. There are plenty of sweet things that I do like. And if it was, I could see black and white cookies replacing Hamantash and the dichotomy of the world and all of that, the yin, maybe in a yin yang sense, but I'm not a fan of Hamantash whatsoever. So Team Latka.
So would you say that since the beginning, the show was kind of biased towards people who are Team Hamantaschen?
Biased against?
Biased for biased against people who are like Hamantaschen, yeah.
I don't know about biased. Of course I'm not. I'm not on the show. I'm not hosting the AMA to be this impartial, judge. I'm there to give my opinions about things. And I'm never mean to people who are Team Hamantaschen. But I get it. I understand if you're more of a sweet person than a savory person. But I'm just not, if some people like Hamantash and they actually will go and get Hamantash. William Greenberg, which has a great black and white cookies, they're also very good Hamantash, people say, but I'm just not a Hamantash guy. It's not even about the Latka versus Hamantash. I don't really like Hamantash. If donut, the sort of, I much prefer the donuts on Hanukkah, for example, not over latkes, but just in terms of a Jewish sweet dessert food.
Okay. I'm totally with you on that one. So, listen, what are your top favorite 3 films besides that are not Godfather 1 and 2?
So I always talk my 3 favorite films, probably Godfather, Godfather 2, whatever I say, Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
I'm going to give maybe my top 10.
Top 10, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody's knows.
If I can think of 10.
Okay.
I don't know which one I usually say. I love Heathers. I think usually I say Godfather, Pulp Fiction, and Heathers. So I'm going to add Princess Bride. I love Princess Bride. Okay. And the book is also amazing. I'm a big William Goldman fan. Princess Bride, I love. I love Splash. The movie Splash, John Candy and Tom Hanks. I love it. You know, also growing up, that was like a film we watched all the time. I loved Splash. Kevin Spacey, you know, he's been canceled to some degree, but I love Usual Suspects. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite films. I like Kubrick a lot, so I love 2001 is a film I really like. I would also say Clockwork Orange, although it's very difficult to watch. But I'm going to put that one up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those would be those are kind of my favorites.
Okay.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Dirty Dancing. I love Dirty Dancing. I love it. I think it's such a great film. It's so sweet, and you know, and especially if you used to go up to, you know, to the Catskills and those bungalow colonies and hotels and all that, then Dirty Dancing is a film that it really resonates with me. Anytime if it's on TV or it's on, I'll watch Dirty Dancing. It's so sweet and just, I don't know, iconic.
I think it's a very telling sign of Poland, because all the films that you mentioned are films that you watched when you were growing up. Those are also the films I watched when I was growing up, and it was like 40 years later. So I think that tells you how behind we were on media back in the day. Oh, Saul Schechter coming with some trivia.
Oh,
today is Daryl Splash Hannah's birthday.
Oh, Daryl Hannah. I loved Daryl Hannah back in the day. Daryl Hannah. You know, it's an underrated film. Mm-hmm. That I'm thinking about films now. There's a film called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead.
Ah, yes.
With Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia, yeah.
It's a very good film. I like Rounders. I don't know if it's a favorite film of mine. I'd say, you know what else is up there? Fight Club. I think Fight Club is really clever. I love the way that they did Fight Club. And I'm sorry, Manchurian Candidate, the original Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, going old school.
Very good film.
Okay.
As a kid, you know, before VCRs, that was my mom's favorite film, Manchurian Candidate. She was obsessed with Manchurian Candidate. And she would always look when the Sunday paper would come on Saturday, for the TV guide for the next week, if Manchurian Candidate was on. So of course, as kids, we used to tease her and be like, oh my God, Ma, Manchurian Candidate is on. And it was never on and never on. It was like a weird thing that it was never on TV. So what happened, eventually we realized that, I don't even know if it was years and years later, when maybe just with the internet, that Manchurian Candidate, you know, it sort of foretells in some ways the Kennedy assassination. And the movie was starring Frank Sinatra, and he owned the rights to it. And he was very good friends with John Kennedy. And because of the similarities between Manchurian Candidate and the Kennedy assassination, he never let the film be released. So it was like my poor mom was waiting every week for her favorite film to come on TV, and it never came on TV because Frank Sinatra wouldn't allow it.
Can you get it like on DVD and streaming services now?
Yeah, now you can, and they remade it with Denzel Washington, which of course I never ever, any remake, if I like something, I will never see the remake of something that I really like. You know what other film I'll put up there? Willy Wonka. I love Willy Wonka, but of course the original with Gene Wilder.
Wilder, oh my God, that's such a good film. Oh, Saul Schechter coming in with more movie trivia.
Angela Lansbury played Lawrence Harvey's mother. Absolutely, very true.
And she was only 9 years older. Wow. And Marcel Zieliński correcting you. You don't like donuts, you like pączki.
Very true.
Is there, would you say, so except like the fact that, you know, donuts are usually like rounds with a hole, like is there a difference between a sufganiot and a pączek, which is the Polish word for donut?
No, I think sufganiot to me are just donuts.
Donuts, right?
Just donuts.
Except for...
I have to figure out some donuts to bring back for Gish.
Yeah.
I owe Gish some donuts.
I think we all owe Gish some donuts in our lives.
I've stopped, especially because not too many people are in the office. I've sort of stopped bringing sweets back. I used to always bring all these sweets, and I feel like people aren't in the office, and plus I don't want to contribute to an unhealthy sort of lifestyle. But Gish and donuts is a separate category.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle choice.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, we're all excited for you to come back. It's been weird not having you here after you've been in the office for, what was it, 8 months, which never really happens.
Never happens.
So, hopefully you have a good remainder of your stay in New York, and hopefully you have a good trip back. Thank you for the interview today. It was fun.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. I have to say you've done an excellent job. Now I realize, like other things, not only do I have to not run the JCC on a daily basis, since you handle that, I can just leave the interviewing to you as well. What better system have I set up that I don't actually have to do anything anymore?
Whatever you need, man. Whatever you need, I'm here for you.
Good man. Good man. I think the next couple of days are going to involve. I'm going to see some friends for some socially distant walks. And I have a prediction that there might be some more pizza and ice cream in the next couple of days.
Well, if you happen to stumble upon anything that changes your opinion in your top, let us know. And everybody, make sure to tune in next week for next episode. And I'm sure Don will update us on his recent finds.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
Good
to see you. So thank you, Sebastian. Leave that backdrop up for me, please. Is that? I can't see exactly. Is that generic city? I don't feel like
It's the backdrop from this week. This week with John Oliver.
Oh, nice. Okay, well played. I like the way you think, Sebastian.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Have fun.